So today, I decided to go down a rabbit hole. Or I really didn't decide to go down the rabbit hole today. I decided to go down it earlier in the week as I thought about what was I going to talk about today. And I decided that I would look at the idea of balance. Because it's been brought up by so many people, how do we bring balance into our life? And so our talk today is about living in the balance. It's about you creating balance in your life. Okay? And what we're going to do is, as we go through it, we've got to start with the very premise is that life is always in balance. Because if life was not always in balance, life would self-destruct. Do you get that? If there wasn't balance, like if the planets weren't in balance going around the sun, and they were out of balance, there would be collisions, stars, asteroids, all of that. There would be collisions. So there is a balance. There is a universal order in life that is always going on. There's a natural balance within our bodies. Our bodies, our cells know how to regenerate, rejuvenate themselves. There's certain cells that form organs. They know how to function perfectly as those organs. So when we say our body is in a state of homeostasis, homeostasis means in balance. When the body's in balance, there is no disease. When a relationship is in balance, there is no conflict. When you're giving your gift in the career world and it's in alignment with what you want and what the company wants, there is no conflict, there's balance, and abundance flows easily and effortlessly. If we do nothing to set the direction of our life, we will experience an average life. Do you hear that? This is really clear. Wherever you've not set a conscious intention about where your life is going, you are going to experience what I call the law of averages. This is where statistics come in. Science uses statistics. Doctors use statistics. Doctors will say, you've just had a hernia surgery. You're going to recover in 8 to 10 weeks. What is 8 to 10 weeks? 8 to 10 weeks is an average, right? Are there people that recovered in 4? Yes. Are there people that recovered in 30? Yes. The question is, which side of the coin are you directing the law, or are you accepting average as your measurement? So many times when someone hears an authority figure, and a doctor, we've given the doctor the status of authority figure, and we really shouldn't. A doctor is a facilitator of helping the healing process, but they're not a minor deity, as MD stands for. Do you get that? So you don't have to give them any power. I remember so clearly the last time I saw a doctor was, 12 years ago, because I had a hernia. And I couldn't repair the hernia. I tried all the mental things, I'd be pushing it in. Try the mental thing, pushing it in. It wouldn't stay in. So I went and found a doctor. And when I was there, walked into him, I said, Doc, I got a hernia, this is what I need, da-da-da. He says, let me do the examination. I said, go ahead. Well, you've got a hernia, you're going to need surgery. I said, yeah, that's why I came. And he says, who are you? I said, I'm Lee. And he says, I'm Dr. So-and-so. And I think it was Dr. John. I said, well, John, good to meet you. He says, no, I'm Dr. John. I said, well, okay, then I'm Reverend Lee. And he got the message. I called him John. I want to make sure that when I'm dealing with people, we're all the same. Does that make sense? We're all one. We're all unique. I don't want to put someone on a pedestal above me, which means then what? I'm going to have their experience because I'm subordinating myself to them or their title. We're all equal. We're all one. To live our dream, we have to direct the law through a balanced approach, including, in all areas of life, including the mental, physical, and spiritual. So there's a balance between those three areas, mental, physical, and spiritual. There's a balance there. We're going to talk about that more. So to truly live our perfect life, we have to figure out. What do we have to figure out? We got to figure out, what do we love? What do we love? What do we love to do? What is it that lifts our hearts and juices us? We have to go, also, after we figure out what we love, we got to figure out, what are we good at? That's real important. I love rock and roll music. And I'm really good at listening to rock and roll music. But that's the extent of it. When I was in the seminary, I went to a Catholic seminary at 15, and we lived away from home. And we formed this band. I couldn't play a musical instrument, but I was one of the cool seminarians. So they said, you can be in the band. You can be like one of the background singers, you know? So I'm like one of the background Supremes types, except I'm a man. And so we're doing our first concert, and we sang. And I realized when I was singing that I was not doing the band any favors. That's my rock and roll experience, other than when I'm singing to myself or I'm playing air guitar. I know that's all I can do, but I'm not good at that, but I love it, okay? But I know what I love, I know what I'm good at. Here's the next question you got to ask. What does the world need? What does the world need now? And then you ask the question, okay, what can I be paid for? See, these are 4 real important questions. Now watch this. We go to this graph and you see now each circle represents one of those questions. What do you love? What are you good at? What the world needs? And what can you be paid for? And I'm going to tell you right now that where you want to be is right there. That's the sweet spot. When you are functioning in the spot where what you love to do, what you're good at, what the world needs, and what you can be paid for, you are in the most abundant state of balance that can possibly exist. That's where you love going to work. That's where you can't wait to get up every day. That's where you're immersed in it. You're in the zone at all times. It's in that sweet spot. That's the spot where you want to be. That's the magic spot. Think about that. That's the magic spot. Here's the thing. You can want a lot of things. I'm just going to say this from, I love sex. I love it. There's no question about it. I'm just going to say that. I'm very good at it. My mind gets to create how good I am. Here's the thing is, does the world need Lee having sex with it? I don't think there's a demand out there. I also don't think the world's going to pay me for it. So that is not my sweet spot. Do you get it? So I do that just to make my wife happy. That's the only reason. But you see, you can live outside of the sweet spot and still enjoy it, but realize you're out of the sweet spot. Sandra's there going like this. You know, she's just, and Sandra, now that you're giving me hot flashes, but anyway. That sweet spot is about every area of life. You got to ask, what do I love to do in the career? What do I love to be in relationship? And you ask these questions about your life. And so here's my favorite chart. I've spent hours and hours and hours, and it's been years putting this chart together. And you're going to see, this is about creating a balanced life. You got to have balance between the spiritual, the mental, and the physical. Do you get that? You've got to have a balanced life there. If you're too one-dimensional, it's not going to work. If you're too in the spiritual, you're going to have a hard time in the physical world. You're not going to have money. Things are not going to go right. You're not going to be expressing your thing. But if you're too much in the mental, you're not going to have the physical go well. You're not going to have the spiritual go well. And if you're all in the physical, well, then you're just hedonistic, and then the rest of your life is going to fall out. It's about getting the balance there. It's about finding that equilibrium, and realize that you're never always going to be in the balance, but you're always seeking to come into balance. That's the key thing about life, is you're seeking to come into balance. I don't have up there, and I didn't know where to put it, but there's also the masculine aspects of our life and the feminine aspects of our life, and that would probably be under the mental, where we embrace the intellectual, which is the masculine, we embrace the feeling and the intuitive, which is the feminine, and we have balance between those. See, every human being has both masculine and feminine energy, but we forget that we have that. Men don't like to admit they feel. I think women are more balanced here. Although I think women are now becoming, I'm generalizing, so please don't beat me up, don't put me on a cross afterwards, but I think women are starting to think too much. I think modern women have gone from more the feeling into more the thinking to overcompensate to be a part of the world, because let's face it, in the last 50 years, there's been a tremendous change. Women stood home and were family with family. Now it's a half and half thing. Most couples have both people working, and it's a double job raising the family. So in order to be back in the business world, there tends to be a lot more intellectual being brought out in women. And I think sometimes that causes too much thinking. We think too much. Men don't think enough. Women think too much. So once we go, let's look at the spiritual. From the spiritual standpoint, there's two aspects of it. You've got to first know who you are. That's real important. And then you've got to know, how do you use the law? How do you use the creative spiritual aspect of life? So under the knowing who you are, the tools that we have in spiritual practice are meditation. When you still your mind and you go into oneness, you lose the individual identity and you experience the collective identity. You go into a state of oneness. The deeper you go, the more you experience it. Mindfulness is about living your life from a conscious perspective so that every moment you're fully present. When I'm walking, I can feel my feet stepping. I can feel my hands moving. I can see people moving. It's very mindful. Everything you're doing is very, very, very mindful. And then it's also about using mantras. Mantras are ancient Sanskrit sayings that the vibration of the sound of the mantra has an impact on the energetic vibration of the body and mind that we have, and it shifts that energy without us knowing what they mean. I'm now taking the Ganapate mantra that Guruji gave me, and I had to do it over 100,000 times in 3 months. I did that, and I still use it almost a year later. I'm doing that every day. I'm now learning the meaning of the words. It's taken me deeper, but I didn't need to learn it. I've done the Bala mantra. I've taught most everyone in here, if you've been coming, the Bala mantra. I've now seen how that can go even deeper. You don't need to. And this is what I'm understanding, is that in spiritual practice, just because we've got a spiritual practice down doesn't mean we've got it at its depth. What we find is the more we do a spiritual practice, the deeper we go into it. The deeper we go into it. Because think about this. If we're infinite, and we are, and if life is infinite, and it is, and if God is infinite, and it is, and we're a part of all that, that means there are always deeper levels or more levels that we can experience, but we have to be ready. We have to be ready to assume it. So what's basically happening with us is that we're ready for about this much on a given day. So our job is to step into this much. And then the next day we step into this much. And the next day we step into this much. But it's not just there. It's in all areas of life. So here we go. And so let's go talk about using of the law under the spiritual. Using the law means directing our thought toward a specific result with persistency and consistency. Persistency and consistency. And so we do that through prayer. We call it spiritual mind treatment. We're treating the mind to think in a specific way, knowing that we're one with God and that the power of our thought creates. That's what spiritual mind treatment is. It's about changing the direction of our thought. In prayer, we don't ask, we don't beseech, we direct the power with directness. We don't, I want this. No, I know that I am abundant. I know that money flows to me. Now, if I just say I know that money flows to me, money will flow to me. It may be pennies. You got to be concise with the law. I know that thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars are flowing to me on a weekly basis. That's much more specific. I know that I have a net worth of over $5 million. That's very specific. I know that I'm a good steward of my money, and not only do I spend my money wisely, but I save and give wisely. That's very specific. You can even get more specific with it. But remember, the law responds to the mental image that you put out for your life. If you're not putting out an image, you're going to get average. And it may be better than, it may be worse than, but it'll be average of some sort. Gratitude. Gratitude just affirms, you're affirming that there's a power in you. There's a power in you, and it's working all the time, and you're just being grateful for it working. Then you've got visioning. That's being able to see it in your mind's eye. And then there's study. In the Bible, they would say worship God. Well, they took that wrong. They would say get down on your knees and worship God. No, that's not what worship means. Worship means the study of God, the study of what it means to be infinite. I can buy into that. I'm studying what that means all the time, so I'm always in a state of worship. Does that make sense? But I'm not subordinating myself to something outside of myself. I'm going within to find that which exists within me, and within me I can find the infinite nature of all that is. So you can see that there's a balance in the spiritual of knowing who you are and then using the law. Now, if you move over to the mental, oh my God, you got to know who you are there, and then you got to use the law there as well. So from the mental aspect, you've got to know who you are. So what are your top values? We talk about that all the time here. Until you know your top values, you're living by other people's values. Without knowing your values, how do you know your life purpose? You see, once you know your values, your purpose in life comes out. Without your purpose is basically, what do you love to do? And what are you good at? And what does the world need? And what is the world willing to pay you for? That's the best purpose you can have. So I said, well, my purpose is to teach and speak about how to better self-love through conscious living. I love doing it. Absolutely love it. I'm pretty good at it if I don't say so myself. I said, does the world need more love? You bet your sweet bippy. Does the world willing to pay for it? Yes, they are. I'm in my zone when I'm doing it. When I'm not doing those specific things of teaching and speaking about how to better self-love, that's not good for me. In other words, the administrative aspects of ministry. I can do them. I'm good at them. I don't love them. I'm just telling you, I don't love them at all. And if she was here, I'd introduce her, but I found that, remember last week, I was advertising for an assistant to help me do my graphics and put things together? The universe delivered her to me, and it's magnificent. But you got to be clear. You put it out there, and boom, someone will answer. It always works when you trust. Okay, and you got to know your whys. If you don't know why you want to do something, there's no power behind it. I want to be a rock star. Why? And you got to be able, if you truly want to be a rock star, you've got to have at least 200 whys. Because you're going to get a lot of disappointments and you're down this musical path. You're going to run into the musical industry, you're going to run into agents, you're going to run into all of this politics and all of this other stuff, and you've got to have a real big why so that you're willing to keep going, to be persistent and consistent in pursuing that dream regardless of what's coming in front of you. When you've got enough why behind it, nothing stops you. Nothing stops you. Everything's on the way, not in the way. So then, that's our mental thing, that knowing who we are. Then what we do in using the law from the mental standpoint, we've got to create aligned goals. Goals that are aligned with our values. We got to link our actions to meeting those goals. We link our actions to being in our values. We've got to align everything with our top values. In other words, we only do, speak, and feel about what we want. Anything that's not what we want, we're making a conscious choice to turn our attention away from it and come back to what we want. And then we've got to reframe our experiences. You can rewrite your childhood. You've had good memories in your life of your childhood. You may have had the crappiest of childhoods. You may have had a lot of abuse in your childhood. You may not have had your parents in childhood. But you can rewrite them in your mind. Because all it is, it's a pattern of thought about your childhood that's playing in the background. You create a new pattern of thought about what your childhood represents, and you'll have a new pattern of thought running, and you'll have whole new experiences. The mind will respond to what you want it to, but you've got to believe that you have the power to do so. You have to reevaluate your values. Your values do change. Being a father was a number one value. It's not even close. It's a non-value now. Now, when I have a grandchild, being a grandfather will become a big value. More for my wife than me. She's more of the acts of service caretaker in her values. Those are there. So being a grandmother, she's just going to blossom in that. Myself, I will want to be the teacher. I want to teach this little guy or little girl or guys and girls. I'll want to teach them self-love from the very beginning. I want them to know what it means to be accepted by someone unconditionally. I thought I did that raising my two sons. I realize now, because I'm so much more aware, that I can do even more. So I'm going to give that to my grandchildren when they happen. Okay, so now we've got the mental aspects, right? Now we've got to go to the physical. You got to know who you are. Well, number one, I'm a man, and I got this body, and I have to know where this body is and how this body's functioning in this moment. So I got to know that I am in human form, okay? So we know that I have this body. I don't want to set an unrealistic expectation. I have a medium bone frame, okay? So for me to have the idea that I can be a heavy power lifter is foolish because it's not my body style, right? I'm long, lean, muscled. That's the way my body is. So I accept the way my body is, and now what I do is I create my body from that. And here's the thing. In the physical, your goal is to take an action step every day toward what are the goals that you've set in these areas of life: your career, your social, your financial, your physical well-being, your intellectual, your spiritual, your familial, or your intimate relationships. Your goal is one little step every day. So when you look at this, do you see all there is to balance? It's almost impossible to do through conscious thought. What you have to do is you have to start to build habits in your life. I have a habit, I wake up and I do meditation every morning. I have a habit, I do mantras and affirmations every morning. I have a habit later in the day that I do prayer work. I have a habit, I go to the gym before I eat. I have a habit that I'm a vegan and I cook for myself most of the time and I eat foods that serve me. I have a habit about how much time I spend with Jean in the morning that I guarantee and how much time I spend with her in the afternoon. I have a habit of going for a walk with my dog and my son, so I connect with my son as we walk the dog every day. I'm also getting physical exercise. I have a habit about when I do my talks, when I do my spiritual reading. You see, I'm building habits in my day so that my day is not controlled by outside reactions. I have my habits before I allow outside reactions to come into my day. Am I good at it? I'm getting better. We're always going to get better. It's hard. Some days we're not going to be in balance because some days one of these aspects of life may require a lot more energy than other days. Does that make sense? And so we have to realize that, but then once we're through that day, okay, now I'm going to come back into balance. And this is one of the things that I would highly recommend, is that when you're doing your gratitude work at the end of a day, think about, what did I do spiritually today? Mentally, physically? What did I do in each of the 7 areas of life? Did I take just a small step? What can I be grateful for here? Did I feel today? Did I think today? Was I in balance with my feelings and my thinkings? Not judging how I did, but just observing where I was today. Was I kind today? Was I direct? You see, there's a balancing act there. Kind and being direct. There are times when it's real important to be direct. You can't be kind in certain moments. You have to be direct. Otherwise, it's not going to be heard. This is one of the things that I loved when Tony Robbins did his movie, I Am Not Your Guru. He was dropping F-bombs all over the place. I mean, 200-300 F-bombs in this movie. And when asked why did he do that, he did that because he says, I need to do something to get people's attention because they're so programmed that they're numb to what's going on in their lives, and I need to startle them. So there is a point of being direct. Now, I don't know if the F-bomb is the way to do that. I know last week I flipped off in the middle of the talk, didn't I? Those of you who were here saw that. And Charles, at the end of the talk, put his hands like this and went, Rev Lee, what am I going to do with that? And I said, leave it in. I consciously did it. I made a conscious choice. I wasn't flipping off a person. I was flipping off an idea. The idea was, don't let anyone come in and tell you that you have to live their dreams. You're not here to live another person's dream. You're here to live your dream. And anyone who gets in the way, you've got to say, excuse me, but I don't really need to spend any more time with you. Did you hear that? If people are taking you away from your dream, you can excuse them from your life. That's a nice way. That's the kind way of saying it. I was being kind this week, not like last week. Here's the bottom line. Feelings are both our guides and our in-the-moment result. So we know that feelings and emotions, when we're feeling good, we know we're on path. When we're feeling bad, we're off path. If we listen to our feelings, we'll know if we're in the right direction or the wrong direction. But it's also if we're in the right, doing the right thing or the thing that's aligned with what we want, we feel good, so it's an end result as well. So that's what I love about feelings. They're both a guide and they're a result. So you've got to be able to embrace that they're both. Not just, oh, I just want to feel good all the time. I want to feel good all the time. Well, give that one up because you're going to have balance there as well. There's going to be contrast with that as well because you've got to have the contrast to keep the desire to have the guide pointing in the right direction. Because let's face it, in this world today, you're going to be interacting with people on a daily basis and they're going to be coming from different points of consciousness and you're like a ball in a pinball machine. And you're going to be hitting things and bouncing back and forth depending on that. And you've got to remember, okay, I got to come back to center because that's how you make the game. You got to come back to center because people are going to be bumping you and pushing you and that type of thing. And it's not that they're doing it physically, but their thoughts. And the energy of collective thoughts, the energy of people does that. The question is, are you willing to accept the responsibility to bring balance to your life? Knowing that when you start the process of bringing balance to your life, that you are now empowered, that you are now in control, and you are now saying, I am no longer a victim, I am a creator. I am the creator of my life, and my life is now mine. It is perfect, it is whole, it is complete, and this is my purpose. I am now living in my sweet spot. And Jackie Gleason would say, how sweet it is. Let's pray.
I want to thank you for joining us today. I'm so grateful that you took your time to watch or listen to this message. If you found this message beneficial, I would ask that you go to our website, agapecsl.com. Once there, click on the donate button and experience the joy of conscious and purposeful giving. Or if you would like, text your gift by simply dialing 972-532-6976. It is through your gifts that we are able to bring this message to you in the world. I would ask that if you like this message, to please subscribe to my YouTube channel under my name, Lee Wolak. Again, I want to thank you for joining me in the Agape community as we learn how to better self-love through conscious living.